Bloodborne is not merely a horror game. It is not merely a masterclass in world design or combat mechanics. It is a philosophical descent, a journey into the most primal fears and loftiest aspirations of the human mind. Underneath its grotesque creatures, cryptic lore and crypt-borne diseases lies a terrifying yet exhilarating question. What happens when the pursuit of knowledge goes too far? Set in the Gothic city of Yharnam, a place where science, religion, and the occult bleed into one another, Bloodborne plunges the player into a world unraveling from within. It is a world that once sought healing through blood, and found instead a nightmare. But that nightmare is not just about beasts. It is about enlightenment, ambition, and the terrible price of seeing too much. In this essay, we'll explore how Bloodborne dramatizes the dangers of epistemic overreach, the idea that there are things we perhaps should not know, and how it channels the fears of thinkers from H.P. Lovecraft to Kant, from Nietzsche to Foucault. More than a monster story, Bloodborne is a meditation on the limits of reason, the madness of vision, and the tragic fate of those who dare to pierce the veil. At its surface, Yharnam is a city consumed by plague. Its citizens, in search of healing, turn to the blood of mysterious entities known as the Great Ones. This blood, believed to be divine or transcendent, promised salvation. Instead, it delivered transformation of body, mind, and reality itself. This is the core horror of Bloodborne, a civilization's desire to know, to transcend, to become more, and the monstrous forms that desire takes when unmoored from humility. It is a philosophical horror rooted not just in fear, but in ambition. The Healing Church, an institution blending science, religion, and metaphysics, began experimenting with this blood, conducting rituals and research in secret laboratories and tombs. But their goal was not mere medical healing, it was ascension. They sought to become kin of the cosmos, to transform the human into the divine. In philosophical terms, they pursued gnosis, secret knowledge, transcendent understanding, and their vehicle was not logic, but blood. The result was Yharnam's fall, not through war, but through epistemological collapse. The boundaries between dream and waking, self and other, beast and God, all dissolve. And the player arrives too late to stop it. You are not a savior, you are a witness. One of Bloodborne's most profound mechanics is its insight system, a stat that tracks your growing awareness of the hidden truths of the world. As your insight increases, you begin to see things that were always there, immense Lovecraftian gods hanging above the city, enemies behaving in new ways, reality itself shifting. Insight represents more than perception. It represents knowledge gained through suffering. And like many forms of insight, whether philosophical, religious, or personal, it cannot be undone. Once you see, you cannot unsee. This is Bloodborne's genius. It turns the pursuit of truth into a game mechanic. The more you know, the more you see. And the more you see, the closer you come to madness. This is straight from the philosophy of H.P. Lovecraft, whose vision of cosmic horror rests on a single premise. The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine. And any attempt to truly comprehend it will unravel the human mind. Lovecraft's protagonists are often scholars, scientists, curious men, not villains, but seekers. They are punished not for sin, but for ambition. So too in Bloodborne, the Healing Church is not malicious. It is simply too bold. It tries to make contact with the divine and discovers that the divine is indifferent, alien, and terrible. This is not the Promethean myth of defiant knowledge. It is the Icarian myth. To fly too high is not to be freed, but to be consumed. To understand Bloodborne's horror, we must turn to a less obvious figure, Immanuel Kant. Kant believed that human beings do not perceive the world as it is, but as it appears through the filters of our mind, space, time, causality. These are not things in the world, they are the structures through which we know the world. In other words, reality in itself, the noumenal realm, is inaccessible to us. Try to grasp it directly, and you lose the very tools that make thought coherent. Bloodborne visualizes this beautifully. The Great Ones, incomprehensible, timeless beings, are not evil. They are simply other. To perceive them directly is to have the scaffolding of the human mind collapse. Language breaks down, time becomes fluid, identity splinters. In a sense, the beasts of Bloodborne are not just physical mutations. They are epistemological failures, minds warped by an encounter with the unthinkable. You don't go mad in Bloodborne because you've sinned. You go mad because you tried to understand too much. If Kant represents the limits of reason, then Nietzsche represents its existential aftermath. In The Gay Science, Nietzsche declares that God is dead, not as a celebration, but as a terrifying observation. The old values have collapsed, the divine order is gone, and in its place, we are left with a question. What now? Bloodborne echoes this void. The gods are not absent, they are present, grotesquely so. But they offer no moral guidance, no salvation, only cryptic rituals, abandoned children, and blood-soaked nightmares. The player cannot restore order. There is no kingdom to rebuild, no prophecy to fulfill. Only choices, ambiguous, haunting, irreversible. In this way, Bloodborne becomes a Nietzschean crucible. It forces you to live in a world without secure values, and to decide how to respond. Will you ascend, submit, rebel, or like Nietzsche's Übermensch, will you create meaning amid madness? Bloodborne ends in one of three ways, each reflecting a different philosophical stance toward knowledge and transformation. The Yharnam sunrise. The player submits to the hunter's dream and wakes up, free of nightmares but unchanged. This is the path of forgetting, a return to ignorance, safety, stability, a kind of platonic cave where you choose the shadow over the blinding light. Honoring the contract, the player becomes the caretaker of the dream, replacing Gehrman as the puppet of higher powers. This is the path of servitude, embracing your role in the machinery of false reality. A Foucaultian submission to unseen structures of power. Childhood's beginning. The player defies the dream, consumes the umbilical cords of the Great Ones, and transcends humanity, becoming an infant cosmic entity. This is the path of ascension through transformation, or perhaps ultimate madness. A final refusal to remain human, a metaphysical death. None of these endings is truly hopeful. Each reveals a different consequence of the search for truth. Loss, bondage, or obliteration. And that is the final truth of Bloodborne. You wanted to know, now you know. So why does Bloodborne resonate so deeply? Because it reflects our deepest modern anxieties about science, religion, knowledge, and the body. About what happens when the frameworks that give our lives meaning begin to collapse under the weight of their own ambition. It reflects the tension between enlightenment and horror, between discovery and despair. We live in a time where knowledge is exploding, and yet meaning often feels more elusive than ever. Like Yharnam, we chase cures. We hunger for transcendence. We flirt with visions beyond the human. And like the citizens of Yharnam, we risk becoming beasts not because we are evil, but because we are unmoored. Bloodborne does not tell us to stop seeking, but it does remind us that seeking without humility is a path lined with blood. Bloodborne is not a tale of good and evil. It is a dream logic poem, a philosophical horror show, a warning written in blood. It is about the limits of human understanding and the tragedy of surpassing them. It is about knowledge as seduction, as temptation, as transformation. And it is about the thin line between seeing clearly and seeing too much. In the end, the true monster in Bloodborne may not be the beasts, the gods, or the hunters. It may be the mind that cannot stop asking questions, even when the answers destroy it. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Philosophy and Pixels for more deep dives into the games that shape how we think.